Welcome to episode 4 of The Dish, where we're talking everything Red Sox and MLB. I'm Rachel Holt, joined here by Ricky Doyle. And Ricky, let's talk baseball.
Let's do it.
All right, so it's been about a month since the MLB non-waiver trade deadline. We've had some time to digest what happened. So I want to ask you, do you think the Red Sox did enough?
They did what they could. I think Dave Dombrowski did a pretty good job of identifying exactly what they needed. As far as, the results so far, it's been kind of a mixed bag. Drew Pomeranz has been pretty much as advertised. Nice pitcher, not exactly the frontline game changer maybe some people wanted. Brad Ziegler has been very serviceable. I think he'll be an asset down the stretch. Fernando Abad's been pretty bad. I mean, can't really sugarcoat that too much. And then Aaron Hill, I think he could play a big role down the stretch as well, particularly with Travis Shaw struggling. So they did what they could.
So since that time, has your opinion of the Red Sox changed?
Not a whole lot, except for maybe the fact that I think maybe their rotation's better than we gave them credit for. This team's still built on offense, obviously, pretty dynamic group. But the rotation, I mean, you look, everything's starting to fall into place a little bit. Rick Porcello's pitched more like a number one starter than I think really anybody anticipated. David Price is showing signs of being the guy they thought they signed in the offseason. Another thing about the Red Sox, I think that they have maybe more depth than we originally thought, just because Brian Johnson came back from his anxiety issue, and he's been pitching pretty well at AAA Pawtucket. I mentioned Clay Buchholz has been pitching better in his spot starts, so maybe that gives you a depth option if somebody else lands on the shelf. So overall, I just think the rotation might be in a better place than it was at the beginning of August, which is going to be huge if this team's going to make a push in October.
Yeah, we have a little more than a month left in the regular season. It's hard to believe, but still plenty of more baseball to be played. And I'm going to ask you to call out the Red Sox player who you think needs to step it up the most during that time.
It's still David Price. He needs to take the ball every fifth day and say, I am the anchor of this rotation. I'm going to put everything that happened for the first half of the season behind me and pitch like the guy that, they're paying over $200 million to pitch.
All right, Ricky, well, we're going to hear from you later about the American League, but for now, we're going to send it over to Mike, Cole, and Nick Goss for their thoughts on Red Sox buy or sell.
All right, welcome in here for a little buy or sell with Nick Goss, NESN.com. We're going to talk a little 2016 Red Sox down the stretch, and maybe even until 2017 a little bit. Speaking of 2017, let's start there. Sandy Leon, big upstart coming out of nowhere this season. Do you think he's going to be the opening day catcher, buy or sell?
I will buy that he'll be the opening day catcher. To be honest, Ryan Hannigan and Blake Swihart have battled injuries this year. Christian Vasquez has struggled a bit. Leon has been great at the plate. His defense hasn't been a liability. He's not a free agent for another 3 or 4 years. So I think from a cost perspective, he's a good choice. So right now, I don't think there's any other option. I think he's the best one right now.
I'm going to sell because I'm going to buy into Blake Swihart getting healthy and buying him being the catcher of the future. He looked okay in the outfield, but that outfield's set for the near term and the long term. I think maybe you find a way to move Leon over the offseason, or you keep him as a pretty good insurance policy. Let's move on to starting pitching, or relief pitching, depending on how you look at it. We're going to go with Clay Buchholz. Do you buy or sell Clay Buchholz in the starting rotation now and moving forward?
I'm going to sell. I think he's pitched well enough of late to be in the rotation, but I think the most value he can provide for the team is as a reliever. The bullpen has struggled, especially of late. His batting average against is almost 100 points better when he's a reliever than a starter. He's also given up 0 home runs as a reliever as well. So while I think that he probably wants to be in the rotation and he deserves a spot based on the way he's pitched, I think the most value he can provide to the team is in the pen.
I'm with you on that one. I'm going to sell as well. Those are some nice numbers. I like those numbers. I'm going to go with a mentality standpoint. I think this is a guy who just kind of is a little bit more successful when he's put in a position where he doesn't have to overthink things, and kind of maybe changing it up on him is the best thing that could be for him. I also think you're starting to see Steven Wright and Eduardo Rodriguez get healthy. I think those guys are better options down the stretch. They have a higher ceiling than Buchholz. And again, look at the teams that Buchholz has done it as a starter, most recently against Tampa Bay. Not a great lineup. No. I don't know if that's a guy you want to get the ball to down the stretch.
Here with Red Sox studio analyst Steve Lyons. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
Okay, so rookie Andrew Benintendi has come out swinging ever since he's been called up to the big leagues. What's your first impression of him?
It's been fun to watch. I love his swing, first and foremost. He's got such a fluid left-handed swing, and a lot of times in the game of baseball, it always seems like lefties have the prettier swings. He already has such quick hands and good leverage, so he hits the ball with power, he hits the ball to all fields. That's pretty impressive for a 22-year-old kid coming up and kind of just playing baseball like it's no big deal.
Another highly touted prospect, Yohan Moncada. Do you think his time in the big leagues is coming anytime soon?
Well, I don't know if they'll rush him, but he is tearing it up everywhere he goes. And he's the guy that you kept hearing about in the minor league level that is so talented and just, he's a stud.
Steve, the Red Sox are right in the thick of things. with a little more than a month to go in the regular season, what do you think about where they stand?
I think it's so much more fun than the last 2 years when we were sitting here talking about, hey, how about those new kids up here playing? They're really good. It's a lot more fun, obviously, when the team's in the race. I think it's going to be a really good race right down to the end. Baltimore's starting to fade, but I think they'll have another push in them. Toronto never seems to lose, so it's like, man, how do you stay ahead of these guys when they're so powerful? And so I think it's going to be so much fun because virtually in the month of September, we're just all playing each other. So it's like a weekend series against Baltimore, and then during the week series against the Rays, and then again the next weekend you're up in Toronto. So it's just going to keep going right to the end, and I think that's the beautiful thing about the way they set up the schedule. And if you're a team in the race at that time, it's so much more exciting for you and your fans. And if you're a team out of the race at that time, you can kind of play the spoiler. But we've been doing that for the last couple of years. I think I'd rather be in the race.
The Red Sox are in the hunt for a playoff spot, but they also have a couple guys with an opportunity to pick up some end-of-season awards in 2016. In stark contrast to his 2015 season, Rick Porcello is a legitimate contender for the American League Cy Young Award this year. The right-hander has some pretty stiff competition in guys like the Blue Jays' J.A. Happ, the Indians' Corey Kluber, and the White Sox's Chris Sale, but Porcello is almost guaranteed to pick up votes this year. The 27-year-old is enjoying his best season to date and has had a commanding presence on the mound. The Red Sox have become accustomed to winning when Porcello is in the lineup. Mookie Betts also could be your 2016 AL MVP if he continues to play the way he has since the All-Star break. The Red Sox right fielder has posted a plus .300 average in July and August, is consistently hitting for power, and has been a monster in the outfield. However, Mookie's path to greatness likely will be more difficult than Porcello's, as he'll be up against Mike Trout, Jose Altuve, and Josh Donaldson.
All right, Ricky, so it's a 3-horse race in the AL East. If you're the Red Sox, who are you more concerned about, the Baltimore Orioles or the Toronto Blue Jays?
I think it's going to be the Blue Jays. They're kind of trending upward, whereas the Orioles are trending downward. They also lost Chris Tillman, who's basically their ace, so that's going to hurt them even more. I am a little concerned about the Blue Jays in one-run games. They have a pretty dismal record when it comes to situations like that. But I just look across the board, Toronto's just the better team at this point, more dangerous. And Red Sox fans have also seen that, particularly in Fenway Park, where they've done some damage.
Things are looking good for the AL East at this point in the season. They're kind of controlling the playoff picture. If you're a non-AL East team, who has the best chance of getting in that wild card spot?
I'm going to say the Kansas City Royals, which nobody would have nobody would have thought of that a few weeks ago. I mean, they were kind of dead in the water. This big run that they're on is basically a product of superb relief pitching, timely hitting, and great defense. Where have we heard that before?
All right, well, we're going to ask you to pick who the best team in the American League is going to be. We still have a month left of baseball to play, but at this point, who are you projecting?
This one right now is really a 2-horse race between the Texas Rangers and the Cleveland Indians. The Indians showed a lot, in my opinion, in their recent series with the Toronto Blue Jays. So I'm going to give the edge to Cleveland. I just look at that rotation. If Danny Salazar and Josh Tomlin can kind of get back on track to go with that top 3 that they have, and Corey Kluber, Carlos Carrasco, and Trevor Bauer, I just think that rotation is as good as any in baseball, or at least in the American League. I love that two-headed monster at the back end of their bullpen, and Andrew Miller and Cody Allen. Not to mention they got a great offense. Love the up-the-middle Jason Kipnis, Francisco Lindor. Just a lot to like about them. Well-managed. Terry Francona, Red Sox fans know a thing or two about him. So I'm going to give the edge to Cleveland, although, like I said, that's a 2-horse race between them and the Rangers right now.
Okay, Ricky, that will do it for this episode of The Dish. As always, for all your Red Sox news, keep here on NESN.com.